Mayor Carolyn Goodman and I are here in her office, and we're going to have a very open and frank discussion about your experience with breast cancer, because you have been so gracious and open about it, and I think it helps people.
Well, it sure helped me, because I tend to be, although I know nobody believes it, I tend to be a very sort of inner person, very private. And so taking on the job as mayor, I've learned a lot about myself to be out there more. And then too, this became an issue that I really could see I needed to share with the public.
Well, it's been very helpful to many, I'm sure. Let's start off with the most important question, and that is, how are you?
I'm great. I am so lucky. I know how fortunate I am, because through it all up until midway probably, I had no idea that it was really for sure contained. You never believe everything you hear. And here I am, having gone through the whole process, and according to the reports, cancer-free. But I know, because I've been asked, and I said, cancer's part of me, and I know that, and you never stop having exams.
So, talk about bad timing. There's never a good time to find out, or to find out that you have cancer. But your timing was really off, from state of the city to announcing you're running for re-election. Tell us how it unfolded.
Well, many years ago, going back 11 years, maybe 12 now, I was working elsewhere and not in this position, and I'm a hands person. I'm always using my hands, talking with them, and I had a cell phone, and rather than carry it in a purse, I would slip it into my bra right here. And I went in for my checkup, I don't know, having done that for 2-3 years, and felt a lump. Go in for a checkup, and it was cancerous, and I'm convinced it was because of whatever was coming through. And fortunately, it was just a lump. I had a lumpectomy. They had to go back in and do it a second time. And then I took medication. I had radiation medication. 5 years later, absolutely clean, nothing, no history. So here I am, lucky enough to be mayor for a first term and then to get another term. And I thought, it probably is a good time to go ahead and move up all my medical checkups, which normally I do in June. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be lucky enough to try again for mayor, I'll do it in January. And so I went in for mammography, as one's supposed to do, and checkups with your gynecologist, or for men who should be doing it too with their physicians. And it came back, we'd like to see you again, come on back in. And then they said, we have 2 spots that are strong. We're going to put you in for a biopsy on your lymph gland. And I heard that, and I thought, uh-oh, and your breast. And so on the other breast, here I was. I went back in, and it happened to be the second tests happened to be done the day of the state of the city. And I had told no one, and of course didn't tell my husband, who's the most explosive human being in the world. And as soon as they had the report, I think they must have rushed it through. They had it immediately, and that both the breast tissue and the lymph gland was cancerous. And so there I was, having to stand up and give one of my very short states of the city, as you well know, Nancy.
They get shorter every year.
Yeah, by 3 minutes. And
how did you do that?
I think it was almost therapeutic, because I had to concentrate so heavily on about the subjects that I was speaking of, talking about our different council persons, and then the issues with which we were dealing. So I made it through it, and from there.
How important, this is one of those questions I ask even though I kind of know the answer, how important was your family through all of this?
Well, obviously I couldn't have done it without them. I think Oscar for sure. The worst part, of course, was telling him, and then sharing it with the children, who panicked. And of course, I was living through my own internal panics and anxieties. But without the family, without my 4 children and their spouses and the grandchildren, without question. I didn't share it for a long time with my sister who lives back east. There was no point.
But they, I'm certain.
So supportive. I mean, there were things that as I was going through the chemotherapy, they have an opportunity for you to try to save your hair, which I thought, well, what difference? Well, my daughter said, oh, Mom, you got to try it. And you need to have somebody who every single treatment, which takes through the treatment, which is 3-4 hours, and then the rest of the day, I think it's like an 8-10 hour treatment that you have to do every 25-30 minutes. And it's monitoring how cold it is and everything else. And she had a little Geiger counter. I mean, she just did it every single time. She was getting up 5 in the morning to get dry ice, which goes in the packs. And interestingly enough, what they tell you, depending on the chemotherapy cocktail that you're having, whether it's going to fall out or not. And my physician told me and her support team that 17th day it's going to come out. And I'm never a believer of those things. So on the 16th day in the shower, I'm washing my hair and I'm thinking, oh, wow, see, they're wrong. 17th day I'm in the shower, and a whole handful came out. And then it was on my pillow.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and then you think, oh my gosh, I mean, it's for other people. How are you going to present yourself? And by this time, I had already, I'm trying to think, yeah, in the treatment, I had already gone through the different testing, so I knew it was in fact contained. And so that I would be able to continue on if I were going to be re-elected. But then what do I do? And so it was an interesting experience. You know, you look at yourself when you're 5 years old or 18 years old or 25 years old or 60, you're not there. And to go ahead and then look at yourself. And it's very interesting. God, if you believe in God or a God, there's a reason why you age and your eyes fail, because you look in the mirror and you, from afar, you don't look so bad until you put the glasses on and you think, oh my gosh. So as I was going through the hair loss, it was an experience, let me tell you.
My mom always used to say that. She said, I can't see very well, but I'm sure it's a blessing.
That's the truth. Once you put the glasses on in the morning, oh my gosh.
And we care. It's not even vanity, but we care about what we look like. So it is.
Well, it's public. I mean, I know it's not Carolyn that's out there. It's the mayor. And so you're representing people and an office. And so anything that denigrates that or pales it, you just don't want to be doing that.
Were there any parts of the treatment, I'm sure chemo was one of them, but were there any parts of the treatment or at any point in time where you were just more afraid than other times or other parts of the treatment?
I'm a big person on truth. And my physician, my doctor, Jackson, her team all knew, don't be sweet and kind and paint a pretty picture. If I know what I have to deal with and what to expect, I can handle anything. It's when something occurs that you're not expecting, that fear is the worst of it all. The fear of the unknown, always in everything. I mean, on the positive side, if you're getting ready for junior prom, it's the anticipation of the fun you're going to have, and not for guys, but for girls, getting dressed, what they're going to wear, all that. And so that anticipation's fabulous. But if you take that energy and then put it on the other side of something that's sort of dark, to me, just tell me, how bad's it going to be? Pain, effort, energy, how can I function? And as I mentioned before, once I was told by my doctor that, you know, you will be able to, this is contained, you're lucky, you will be able to do your job, all things being equal. And I think that, to me, was so helpful because of the knowledge going along, and I was told each step of the way what to expect. So I knew that.
you rarely see 99.9% of the public rally for any politician or elected official, but boy, I'm telling you, anyone you talk to on the street was just praying for you, hoping for you. How did that help?
Oh my God. I mean, just thinking of it makes me tear up because they were so tender. Everybody, people I had never met in my life, cab drivers and people out on the street. I mean, literally people that were just standing there, even some who had come to visit because they had relatives or friends here, and so genuine and so thoughtful, and letters and emails and phone calls. And I thought, wow. And so I knew I was getting every positive vibe that I could get, and it was so comforting. And yet I felt very selfish because once I knew it was contained, I could do anything. I knew I could do anything. In fact, I think I said in the announcement that I felt I could take on a pack of wolves. And I really did once I knew it was contained. The worst part of the whole thing was the time frame when I didn't know. And that's when I had not told the children, had not told Oscar. I just figured I can't give that to somebody else to carry that fear. Mm-hmm. And if anybody thinks any differently, it was total fear. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking, where is it in my body? How long do I have? Because I had such energy, and I've always had such energy. And then to begin to think of, oh my gosh, we've been in the same house now 43 years. 43 years with 4 children, and then grandchildren. I got stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff in the house. And I'm thinking, and then everything else that has to be put in order, and not knowing how bad, only because of the lymph node. Yeah. I thought it was already everywhere, which meant I maybe, with any luck, maybe had a couple of months. And so it was terrifying to me. And the worst was looking at the children and looking at Oscar. And he sensed something, but at that point, you know, I just couldn't do it to him, because I couldn't have him worrying like what's the point of worry? You need facts, and you need to know so you can deal with it.
Well, Mayor, that is strength, and that is unbelievable love to protect your family and not wanting them scared. So you take on all the fear yourself. That's amazing.
Right, but when somebody you love is sick, it's harder on the person that's watching the person that's sick or in trouble. It's always harder. You would always say, give it to me, let me have it. Yes, and so then, you know, everything proceeded along.
That's true. How would you rate the care you got here in Las Vegas?
Oh. You know, when Oscar took office in 1999 at his inaugural commentary, I remember 3 widows that were in the audience, friends of ours, who had lost their husbands, and each of them had been treated out of town. They maybe had had some treatment in the beginning, or at least some physician consultation, but all of them were either up or all around the world looking, or up for bone marrow transplants somewhere else, and operations somewhere else. And so the statement always was, I'm going to the airport. Mm-hmm. And I remember in Oscar's inaugural, him talking about the quality of what a great city, a world-class city, had to have, and one of it was top medical care, and therefore there would never be a need to go to the airport, that hopefully people, because of the physicians and the treatments, would be coming here. And as you well know, buildings, you can build hundreds of hospitals, they don't treat. It's the physician and the necessary equipment that they would have. And so fortunately for me, I did have the same physician who had taken care of me with my first runaway problem. And that's where lucky lady that she is, I went right back to her, and so supportive, just incredible. And the care, it was comprehensive. We have wonderful care in cancer now. Things have changed over the decades so much in how they treat patients and what they can treat you with. But comprehensive cancer, just everything from the chemo to the care. I did get an E. coli bacteria, which almost wiped me out, but the radiation and the surgery, all of that, just top drawer. I mean, absolutely top of the line. And I'm so proud of everything that they've been doing.
And a lot of people might say, well, of course they're going to treat you like gold. You're the mayor. But there are other doctors out there and other patients out there that receive just as good a care.
The care is, of course, it had nothing to, well, I would have cried and begged and whatever, but the reality is, and we have a lot of issues with health care, as everybody knows today, and what your insurance covers and what it doesn't. That's the biggest issue, because you can be in debt. I mean, my whole case, I'm sure it was over $1 million. For anybody who has any major issue, whatever it is, the cost of medical care is just through the roof, and if you don't have insurance, you've got to find a way to get medical care. You just have to. But I was so fortunate, and they are such a wonderful group of technicians and nursing care and the physicians, and their understanding and yet staying up, because what's so wonderful today, because of technology, you can get information immediately of something new. I mean, remember 30 years ago, what they would do is operate you first, then chemo, and then radiation or whatever. And I think they found that exposure perhaps to some air or something wasn't the best. And now they, for the most part, in certain types of cancer, at least mine, it's chemotherapy first, then surgery for what's left, or hopefully there's nothing left, and then follow-up care with radiation or other medication. So it was a good time for me to be alive now rather than 30 years ago as well.
So I know there's a hesitancy to be a role model, so to speak, because everybody's situation is different, their experience and how soon or how late they discover the cancer. But what would your words, I don't even want to say advice, but what would your words to someone who might be approaching this journey, what would they be?
I think, for anybody who's, I know what research and what the American Medical Society says, and I have a father who, or had a father who was an obstetrician and gynecologist. The main thing is to take ownership of yourself and get checkups. And it certainly, cancer is not a female disease, and breast cancer is not just a female disease, males too. And then we have prostate cancer. I mean, there's colon rectal cancer. There are certain things that you listen to the time pattern of when you go for checkups. But certainly for history in the family, and we had none. There was no history of cancer in the family, so I was a little more lackadaisical about checkups. But I think if anything came out of all of this, and my ability to keep reminding myself, because I kept wanting to turn in and just sort of keep it to myself, no, you have an opportunity to remind people to go for checkups and to check their history and find out, and even if it's heart disease or it's glaucoma, go in for checkups. And we do have these wonderful physicians, whether they are in eye care or gastroenterology or osteopathic medicine. And you just need to own your body and take care of it. And then luckily, because we are developing such a fabulous crew of medically trained people, it's just, we're so lucky.
Okay. We're lucky that you caught it early and are still with us, because I can't imagine a Las Vegas without you.
You are just wonderful. I'm having the best of times. I have to tell you, what a great city we live in, what an opportunity for everybody, because everybody makes a difference here, and how nice to be able to see that, watch people take the joy of, I'm from Las Vegas and I do this and this is what I love, and it's just great. We're such a melting pot too. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for having me. It's just, get your checkup.
I do.
Okay.